high-value woman doesn't chase men. She attracts them effortlessly. Not because she's playing games, but because her energy speaks for itself. She's grounded, confident, and intentional with her presence. She doesn't need to slide into DMs, double text, or prove her worth to anyone. Why? Because she's already validated herself. Her self-worth isn't tied to how fast someone texts back or how much attention she's getting. She's not out here auditioning to be chosen. She is the choice, and she moves like it. When she walks into a room, she doesn't need to be the loudest. Her presence carries weight. A high-value woman knows that real attraction starts with self-respect. That's what makes her magnetic. She doesn't go out of her way to be liked. In fact, she's completely okay if someone doesn't get her. She doesn't water herself down to be more digestible. That's the key difference. She's not moving from a place of lack. She's not trying to fill a void with a man's attention. Her life is already full. A woman of high value focuses on her goals, her peace, her growth. She knows that chasing someone means you're running away from yourself. And that's not how she operates. If a man is interested, he'll show up. He'll make it clear. She doesn't have time to decode mixed signals, chase breadcrumbs, or accept halfway love. She's not here to raise grown men emotionally. She doesn't play the therapist, the fixer, or the builder. She's the reward, not the rehab center. She's selective with who gets access to her. Her time is precious, her energy is expensive, and not everyone can afford it. That's not arrogance, that's self-awareness. She's done the work to know what she brings to the table, and she doesn't have to convince anyone of her worth. If someone can't see it, that's their loss, not hers. High-value women don't seek attention. They command respect. That's the difference. She may be beautiful, but it's not her looks that keep people around. It's her mind, her standards, her peace. She's not loud about her boundaries, but she enforces them without hesitation. She doesn't chase because she doesn't need to. A man who truly sees her won't make her chase. He'll make it easy to be chosen. And let's be clear, this kind of woman isn't out here playing hard to get. She's just hard to fool. There's a difference. She's not pretending to be busy. She's actually busy with her life, her passions, her purpose. She doesn't wait around hoping someone will text her. She's already booked. And if a man wants a spot in her life, he better come with intention, not confusion. She doesn't confuse attention with affection. Just because someone is curious doesn't mean they're committed. She knows the difference, and she doesn't entertain maybes. A man either steps with clarity or steps aside. No drama, no chasing, no begging, just standards. So when you wonder why some women don't chase, it's not because they're cold. It's because they've learned. They've been through the games, the empty promises, the wasted time. And now they attract what aligns with their value. Because the more a woman values herself, the less she tolerates things that make her question it. A high-value woman doesn't argue about her boundaries. She doesn't negotiate them. She doesn't shrink herself just to keep someone comfortable. Her standards are not up for debate. And she doesn't explain herself repeatedly to someone who's already shown they're not willing to respect them. She's not here to convince anyone that her needs are valid because she already knows they are. The moment she senses pushback or resistance about her boundaries, she doesn't escalate. That's the difference between a woman who knows her worth and one who's still seeking it through someone else's approval. She understands that boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They're filters to keep the wrong people from getting too close. They are not ultimatums either. They are standards. Quiet rules for how she allows herself to be treated. She doesn't raise her voice or go into long explanations when someone crosses the line. She simply shows them the consequence of that choice: distance, silence, or complete removal. She doesn't do repeated warnings. Once is enough. When she says she doesn't tolerate disrespect, she means it. She's not going to stay in a situation where her emotional, physical, or mental well-being is compromised. And when someone tries to test her limits, ignore her needs, play emotional games, or try to guilt trip her for having standards, she won't argue. She'll exit. That's what power looks like. Quiet, calm, unshakable. She knows that the moment she starts justifying her standards, she's entertaining someone who's not even qualified to meet them. She's not difficult, she's discerning. A man who respects himself and is emotionally mature won't flinch when a woman communicates a boundary. He'll appreciate it. He'll meet it. But the ones who push back, those are the ones who hoped she'd make an exception. And that's where they lose her. Because she doesn't make exceptions when it comes to her peace. She doesn't allow chemistry to override clarity. If the connection starts to cost her peace, she walks. A high-value woman understands that how a man reacts to her boundaries tells her everything she needs to know. If he gets defensive, manipulative, or starts to guilt her, she pays attention, not to what he says, but to how he handles hearing no. Because no is powerful. No reveals character. And if a man can't respect a boundary early on, he won't respect her fully later. She's not trying to be liked by everyone. She's not trying to prove she's not like other women by tolerating more. She's not trying to be the one who holds him down while he figures out how to treat her. That's not love. That's unpaid labor. And she's not doing that anymore. She's past the stage of mistaking emotional labor for loyalty. She's past trying to earn love by sacrificing her self-respect. People often say strong women are intimidating, but that's not the truth. She's not intimidating, she's just not easy to manipulate, and that makes insecure people uncomfortable. That's why the wrong men will call her too much, too opinionated, too high management, too independent. But the right man, he'll see her boundaries as a sign of self-love. He won't just respect them, he'll match them. A high-value woman doesn't weaponize her standards. She embodies them. And the ones who can't handle that don't get access to her. She's not angry about it. She doesn't go online ranting about how all men are the same. She simply exits the rooms where she's not seen, valued, or heard, and enters ones where she is. Not because she's trying to win, but because she's done settling. A high-value woman doesn't fall for sweet talk, promises, or potential. She's been there before. She's heard the right words with the wrong intentions, and she's learned that talk is cheap when it isn't backed by action. She no longer gives the benefit of the doubt to someone just because they sound good. Instead, she pays close attention to consistency, the daily behaviors, the follow-through, the way someone shows up when no one is watching. That's where the truth lives. She doesn't get caught up in fantasy. She stays grounded in reality. Potential is a dangerous trap, especially for women who are naturally empathetic and nurturing. But a high-value woman learns the difference between supporting someone and carrying them. She knows you can't build a healthy relationship on maybe, someday, or when he gets it together. She's not in the business of dating unfinished projects. She's looking for alignment. Not someone she has to fix, guide, or mold. A man can have all the potential in the world, but if he's inconsistent, unreliable, or emotionally unavailable, she's not interested. Consistency to her is the ultimate form of respect. It's not just about showing up when it's convenient. It's about showing up when it matters, when things get tough, when communication is hard, when vulnerability is required. Anyone can be charming at the beginning. Anyone can put on their best behavior for a few weeks. But she's not judging by the highlight reel. She's watching the full movie. She wants to know who you are after the honeymoon phase, when the masks drop and the real personality comes through. She doesn't confuse effort with consistency either. A grand gesture here and there doesn't impress her if it's followed by neglect. She's seen men show up strong one week and disappear the next. That doesn't move her. She wants emotional stability, not emotional roller coasters. She doesn't measure love by how high the highs are. She measures it by how steady the rhythm is. A high-value woman understands that someone who truly wants to be in her life will make it obvious, not just through what they say, but through repeated actions that align with their words. If there's a gap between intention and action, she takes it seriously. She's not blind to red flags just because the connection feels good. She trusts her intuition, but she also looks at patterns. If the behavior doesn't match the promises, she stops making excuses. She's not cold or closed off. She's just wise. There's a difference. She's not bitter. She's alert. She's paid attention to what happens when she invests too quickly in potential. She's felt the heartbreak of loving someone more for who they could be than who they actually are. And now she's intentional. She moves slower. She watches longer. She doesn't fall for words. She looks for patterns, habits, consistency over time. Men with good intentions respect this about her. They don't see her standards as a wall. They see them as an invitation to be real. They understand that she's not looking for perfection, just honesty. Just someone who shows up with the same energy tomorrow as they did today. Someone who's not perfect, but consistent. Because real love, healthy love, it's not flashy. It's dependable. It's consistent. So while others may fall in love with potential, she falls in love with presence. Not the promise of who someone might become, but the truth of who they are right now and how they choose to show up day after day. A high-value woman understands that what she brings to the table isn't common, and that's why she doesn't offer it to just anyone. Her time, energy, and love are premium. She's not interested in being overly accessible, overly available, or overly accommodating to people who haven't earned that level of closeness. She doesn't confuse kindness with overgiving, and she's not in the business of proving her worth to someone who doesn't already recognize it. She knows her value, and because of that, she doesn't lower herself just to be accepted. She's not in competition with anyone else, and she's not racing to be chosen. She's already chosen herself. She doesn't have to broadcast her standards to get attention. Her presence speaks for itself. She walks into a room and carries herself with intention. There's no need for her to beg, chase, or persuade anyone to take her seriously. She knows the difference between someone who's genuinely interested and someone who's just passing time. If someone can't see her value from the beginning, she doesn't stay around hoping they'll eventually figure it out. She exits quietly and with grace, not because she's bitter, but because she refuses to entertain what doesn't align with her. Her life isn't built around impressing a man. It's built around purpose, peace, and progress. Anyone who enters her world has to add to that, not subtract from it. She doesn't need constant validation, and she doesn't crave approval from people who aren't qualified to assess her worth. She's not looking to be rescued or completed. She's whole. She's built herself from the inside out. Every scar, every lesson, every comeback has added to her strength. That's why she knows what she's worth, because she's worked for it, she's earned it, and now she protects it. She doesn't equate attention with affection. 1,000 eyes on her mean nothing if they don't come with consistency, honesty, and respect. She doesn't get caught up in charm or sweet talk. She looks for alignment between words and actions. Anyone can say the right things, but only a few show up with the kind of energy that lasts. She doesn't want effort for a week. She wants consistency for a lifetime. And she's willing to wait for that, even if it means walking alone for a while. Loneliness doesn't scare her like settling does. She's not high maintenance. She's high standard. There's a difference. She's not asking for more than she's willing to give. In fact, she gives deeply, loves fully, and supports wholeheartedly. But she's also wise enough to know not everyone deserves access to that kind of depth. She's been through enough to realize that giving too much to the wrong person drains your spirit. So now she chooses differently, intentionally, selectively. Some people might call her difficult, but she's not difficult, she's disciplined. She doesn't entertain chaos. She doesn't tolerate half effort. She doesn't play guessing games with her heart. She speaks directly, lives authentically, and expects the same in return. The people who can't handle that are simply not meant for her, and she's fine with that. She's not lowering her vibration just to be understood by people operating beneath her. She doesn't come with a warning label, but her energy is clear. If you're not real, if you're not ready, if you're not rooted in truth, don't waste her time, because she's not trying to fit into someone else's life. She's building her own. And if someone wants to be part of it, they need to come correct. Not perfect, but intentional. Not flashy, but real. That's the only kind of energy she entertains, because that's the only kind of energy she gives. A high-value woman is whole on her own. She's not walking around waiting for someone to complete her, rescue her, or give her life meaning. She's not interested in being someone's better half, because she already exists as a complete, balanced, and self-sufficient woman. Her happiness doesn't depend on a relationship. Her identity isn't tied to being someone's partner, and her peace doesn't rely on someone else showing up. She's built a life that she loves, whether or not someone is standing next to her in it. That's what makes her powerful. Her ability to be fulfilled in solitude and selective in connection. She doesn't approach relationships from a place of desperation or emptiness. She doesn't need to be validated by a man in order to feel like she matters. Her self-worth is intact whether she's single, dating, or in a relationship, and because of that, she's not afraid to be alone. She doesn't settle for attention when what she deserves is devotion. She doesn't hold on to people out of fear of being by herself. She knows her value isn't determined by someone else choosing her. It's defined by how deeply she's chosen herself. Because a woman like this doesn't seek external approval to feel beautiful, loved, or wanted. She affirms herself daily. She fills her own cup. She knows how to enjoy her own company, how to invest in her growth, and how to nurture her own peace. She's emotionally aware, spiritually grounded, and mentally strong. She knows that being in a relationship is not a goal. It's a gift that only adds to what she already has. She's not looking for someone to give her a life. She's looking for someone to build and expand with. She's also not trying to be a savior or a fixer. She's not looking to pour into someone who refuses to pour into themselves. Her emotional support is not a service that's freely given to anyone who shows interest. She's careful with her energy because she knows how powerful it is. She won't invest in a situation that drains her or pulls her backward. She's learned through experience that loving someone deeply doesn't mean you have to lose yourself in the process. She's not repeating that mistake. When she enters a relationship, she comes in as a partner, not a project manager. She doesn't want to be needed, she wants to be valued. She doesn't want codependence, she wants connection. She wants to be with someone who also stands on solid ground, someone who brings wholeness to the table too, so they can build something strong together. She's not impressed by potential alone. She looks for presence, stability, and maturity. She's done with the chaos, the games, and the uncertainty. This kind of woman doesn't romanticize struggle. She doesn't confuse toxicity with passion or emotional chaos with deep love. She knows that love should bring peace, not confusion. She knows that two healthy, complete people create the strongest foundation for something lasting. That's why she takes her time. That's why she protects her space. That's why she doesn't rush just because society says she should be with someone by a certain age or stage. She moves when it feels right, not when she feels pressured. Her independence is not a threat to the right man. In fact, it's an invitation for something powerful. A relationship built on mutual respect and freedom, not control and insecurity. The man who understands her value won't try to dim her light. He'll respect the fact that she's whole on her own and still chooses to share her life with him, because in the end, that's what love should be. A choice, not a need. Connection, not a crutch. A partnership, not a lifeline. And that's exactly what a high-value woman stands for. A high-value woman communicates with clarity, not confusion. She doesn't play games, drop hints, or rely on manipulation to get her point across. She knows exactly what she wants, how she feels, and what she expects, and she says it. Her words are intentional, grounded, and honest. She doesn't believe in the idea that being mysterious or hard to read makes her more desirable. That's not her style. Instead, she brings presence, maturity, and authenticity into every conversation, whether it's lighthearted or difficult. She's not afraid of directness because she understands that honesty is the foundation of any real connection. She doesn't use silence to punish. She doesn't rely on passive-aggressive comments to express her needs. She speaks from a place of self-respect and self-awareness. And while she's willing to listen and be compassionate, she won't tolerate being ignored, dismissed, or misunderstood because someone isn't willing to listen at her level. She knows communication isn't just about words, it's about emotional intelligence, presence, and intent. That's why she values depth over surface talk, intention over noise, and alignment over charm. In relationships, she's not the type to leave people guessing. If she's interested, you'll know. If she's upset, she'll speak up. If something doesn't sit right with her, she'll express it calmly and clearly. She doesn't raise her voice or throw blame. She communicates to understand and be understood. And if she sees that the person she's speaking to is unwilling to meet her there, unwilling to listen, acknowledge, or shift when needed, she won't force the conversation. She'll step back, not because she doesn't care, but because she knows arguing for clarity with someone committed to misunderstanding her is a waste of energy. She also knows how to hold space for others. She's emotionally safe. You can talk to her about anything because she's not reactive, she's responsive. She listens without immediately defending herself or flipping the script. She allows space for disagreement without making it a battle of egos. But make no mistake, just because she's composed doesn't mean she's a pushover. Her kindness is not weakness. She won't beg anyone to communicate. She won't chase after someone who shuts down or disappears when things get real. She expects emotional availability, and she brings that to the table herself. When it comes to setting boundaries, she doesn't do it through ultimatums. She simply makes her expectations known and follows through with actions if those expectations aren't met. She doesn't waste time repeating herself to someone who's already showing her they're not listening. One time is enough. After that, it's not a conversation, it's a decision. She removes herself from places where her voice isn't valued or her needs aren't considered. She also recognizes that communication isn't just about speaking. It's about energy, tone, body language, and intention. That's why she doesn't just listen to words, she watches behavior. She notices the timing, the tone, the way someone follows up after a disagreement. She pays attention to how people respond when she expresses a boundary or shares a need. Do they show empathy? Do they get defensive? Do they dismiss it entirely? Those answers tell her everything she needs to know. She doesn't believe in playing the victim or turning every issue into a fight. She's not here to win arguments. She's here to build connection. But connection can't happen without clarity. It can't happen without mutual understanding, respect, and truth. That's why she keeps her communication clean. Not perfect, but honest. Not harsh, but firm. She's not trying to dominate. She's trying to relate. And if someone can't meet her in that space, she won't twist herself to be understood. She'll move on and find someone who speaks her language, not just with words, but with actions that prove they're listening.